Hello again. I'm Henry T. Man, I'm fired up today. By the way, we've had so much feedback on the features we did on overnight sensation quarterback at UNM, Isaiah Chavez. We're going to return that feature to you again by popular demand. Also, in the same day, we ran Lou Baudoin, former Sandia star basketball player who played for Don Haskins at UTEP. He's on the show again today by your request. Let's begin with the former Matador star and Miners star, Lou Baudoin. Let's start with him today. Lou Baudoin, good morning to you, buddy. It's great
Hello, Henry.
to have you on the Henry T. Show. How are you?
I'm doing just great. I'm feeling good. The weather's good. My house is almost built. I've
Well,
been building a house from scratch without a mortgage for 43 years.
wow. How
That's
do
how
you,
many elections it takes to pick up that many signs.
way to go, coach. And one of the most popular professors or teachers, if you will, in Albuquerque Academy history. He's known, he's a very popular guy, nice guy. What a player, what a businessman, artist, and his greatest days are still in front of him. Lou, you've done a lot of things in your life.
Yeah, we've kept pretty busy, I suppose. Yeah, I think you'd say that. Yeah, we're slowing down. I was 75 once. I remember it well. Yeah. So
You
yeah.
know, how many times in a month, a year, do people remind you about being on that historic NCAA men's basketball championship team that made a lot of history for reasons I'm going to bring on to you in a second? But my goodness, the Texas Western Miners, of who they were called then, now the UTEP Miners, how many times did people remind you about that historical team?
Well, what's interesting is I think I've probably met every person who ever attended that game. Uh, and and most of them were telling me a story. But now it happens a lot. The closer you get to El Paso itself, the more that happens. That was a mighty big deal to the folks in El Paso, and still is. We're invited back to the city for one celebration or another consistently.
Wow. So you have reunions occasionally with you
Yes,
and all the players.
frequently. The fellows are passing on. We've lost some teammates in the last couple of years, and of course, the coach has been gone for a while. But yeah, the numbers are thinning out, but we still go. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Kind of give us a paragraph of the deepest, truest significance of that team.
Well, most of what you know and most of what I know has been accumulating for 50 years. The story grows and the story grows, and its importance grows. As basketball evolves, um, the story grows even more. A lot of the people who we played against um, were not at the schools that they originally tried to go to. We had a lot of racial strife in those days. It was very difficult. And a lot of the memories that I have heard and the stories I've had told to me over the years have been from people who we played against or may have played against, or people who went on to play professionally and how much that game meant to them. And that's been an interesting experience. That's the part that doesn't go away.
Well, shorten it, but give me the point that's most significant to writers around the world. It's written so many times, you say, gee, the first starting five, all black starting five in the history of NCAA basketball. And Don Haskins, there's the team right there. Don Haskins, the head coach, the architect of that team and that success. Five players today all black team is not rare. You see black players 5 on the floor at a time, a lot of places. But back then, it was the first time. Traveling the country, and you made inroads there about black players and racism that you ran into around our country. What was it like being on that team with those feelings running rampant around our country, racism?
We had a remarkable bunch of kids playing on that team. We had kids from New York City, and we had kids from near Chicago, Houston, places where the race issue was right in your face. And it was a very, very tough time politically in the United States. When I walked onto the campus as a freshman was the same time that James Meredith walked on the campus. And we had very different experiences. Those kinds of things happened. We were also very, very fortunate to be in El Paso and to be with Coach Haskins. He kept us away from most of the politics. And I think that was appreciated by the African American players, probably more than the white players. This was a new place for them. Attitudes were very different than where they came from. And there was an opportunity to be yourself. And as a group, we got along incredibly well and have stayed close over all these years. And I have to give credit to the coach and the size of the school and the school itself. It had only been changed to a liberal arts college only a few years. It had been the Texas College of Mines, and most of the faculty were leftovers from the mines faculty. And they were a small, tight group themselves, and we had lots of help, and it made a big difference in our lives. We lived a simple existence. You got up in the morning and scrambled down to eat, you made classes, and you were on the court at 2 o'clock, and you weren't back at the dorm until you were so tired you couldn't see straight. And we did that 7 days a week.
Wow.
We did not miss a day. I remember we got Easter Day off, and we thought maybe Coach had a flat tire.
Well, you were a star at Sandia High School, and that team won the state championship at Johnson Gym. I was a kid. I'll never forget it. I think I snuck in with my buddies, and my neighbor, Jimmy Papan, who was your point guard, your very close friend of yours, and the team itself at Sandia, we're going back now, before the Texas Western experience. You got a taste of a lot of glory there because, I don't know, maybe that was the first sellout in New Mexico high school basketball history, Johnson Gym. There were no seats left. I guess it was the first game ever on television, maybe on statewide radio as well. How about that championship team?
In those days, we had 3-year junior highs. Freshmen did not attend Sandia. So we had a chance at 3 years of playing basketball at Sandia. And we played other sports as well. Some of us. Some of us gave up on some other sports as well. But no, we were an interesting bunch. When I started my 9th grade year at McKinley Junior High, I started the year about 5'9". I finished the school year at 6'6.5".
Wow.
I was in bed growing and missed 2 weeks of school in that process. The kids came from around the city within what became the Sandia district. The city was growing so quickly, they were building high schools so fast they couldn't keep track of where the kids were living who were going there. So we became very close friends very quickly. But in those days, high school basketball in New Mexico was in 2 divisions. There was Class A and Class B. And because of that, there was a lot of mixing in games. I mean, my sophomore year at Sandia High, we played at Magdalena. We played at Moriarty. We played Olos. It was a very different world basketball-wise, and that was a wonderful thing because we got to know a lot of different kids. And our team was scary tall. Gary was 6'8", advertised 6'9". I was about 6'6" or 6'7", and he was a heck of a player, and he was a heck of a baseball player. And Jimmy Papan was good at everything: quarterback, catcher, point guard. Every team needs someone like that. He was the cement on the team. But we're also bright kids, good students. And it was an interesting bunch. Like I alluded to earlier in our conversation, we had a struggle figuring out what we were going to be like, what kind of a team we were going to be. We played in the Hobbs Holiday Tournament at Christmas, and we lost to Las Cruces. And we were 3 wins and 6 losses at that time. And that was devastating. I mean, what were we going to do? Well, what we decided to do was not lose anymore. So we lost one more game, again to Las Cruces in our own gym by just a couple of points, and went on to win the state championship. We got better every day. Every game we improved. And if you look back at the stats, it's obvious that we were listening and paying attention because we got better and better and better.
Wow. Well, to make a long, exciting story short, you played the Mighty Midgets. They didn't have a single player. I had the tallest player that night, I think, was 6'1". Everybody else is under 6 feet tall. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they were not big. And the Jimmy Papan ended up hitting the winning shot with 6, 7 seconds or 8 left in the game. What do you recall about that game against St. Mike's, the Mighty Midgets?
We had seen them play, and we had watched their success and how they won games, and they were absolutely relentless. That was what they had. They would not give up. They played a press everywhere. I had I had to bring the ball up against that team that entire game. We had a single point guard, and the ball got thrown into me, and I had to turn around and face those crazy people, and they were unbelievably good on defense. And we were up, I think we were up 12 or 14 points at one point. It looked like the game was done. And sure enough, in the last 3-4 minutes, they just chewed us up. And they were that kind of team. That whole state tournament that year was really unusual. Las Cruces had come in. They had won 2 state championships in a row. They were supposed to win. Hobbs was the perennial #1 team in the state. And they both lost in the first round. Bayard Cobre won, and St. Mike's won, and Valley High won. And teams that were not supposed to be there, all of a sudden we had a whole new tournament. And we were looking around saying, well, we look pretty good here. We've seen all these people. And that's how that went. But St. Michael's as a team and as individuals were just so exceptional to play against. They were such gentlemen, but they played so hard. I was fortunate enough to be on the North All-Star team that year, and 2 of their players were on that squad with me, and they were just remarkable people. And yeah, I would have played them 10 games in a row.
Wow.
You know, and they probably would have won. No, they would have won half of them maybe, because we kept getting better and better and better. Yeah.
Take us now to the final month of the NCAA tournament. Don Haskins leading all of you players through a unique season. And one stop, it was at the University of New Mexico, where the Lobos had a 20-point lead on you guys, and somehow you guys pulled it off and beat them in an amazing comeback win.
Our point guard, Bobby Joe Hill, was raised in Detroit across the street from the great center that played for the Lobos at that time. And they did indeed. They had us down 20 at the half. And we were just shook up because we'd been playing very well. The Lobos had a heck of a team and had for a couple of years. But Bobby Joe just kind of sat back and he says, "Don't worry about it." He says, "Don't worry about it." He scored 28 points, I think, in the second half and just chewed them up, including the center for the Lobos. It was a remarkable game, but it was a remarkable season of games just like that. It's what drove Coach Haskins nuts. We just only seemed to play well enough to win. And then other than that, we seemed to have too good a time. We beat Colorado State on a almost half-court hook shot by Bobby Joe Hill, of all people. Yeah. And then, of course, the famous game with Kansas and the game with Iowa when they came into El Paso and they were ranked third, I think. And I think we had them down 32-5 before they realized that they were in trouble, and we destroyed them. And we played some great teams. Cincinnati had a great team. And we had to play hard every game to get where we were. It was interesting because we were not in a conference. And NCAA didn't want to have much to do with non-conference teams. So we had to play a play-in game. We were, 25-1, and we had to play into the tournament, which was typical of the times as well. It was stressful. But again, Coach Haskins pretty much kept us aloof, He'd look at the map and find the motel that was the furthest from anything, and that's where he put us, And we had routines that were just crazy. Our pregame meals were the same for 3 straight years. 4 years. That's what we ate, and it wasn't good, but it's what we ate. And we were victims of great routine. Yeah.
Well, taking you through the NCAA tournament, and just because of our time restraints, I want to really get to that game. Kentucky, that included Pat Riley and Adolph Rupp. Wow, mean, grumpy Adolph Rupp. And as John Voight portrayed in that movie, he wasn't exceptionally nice to the miners out there at championship day or championship week. And everybody in the country was writing you off as being, you guys can't stay on the floor with the Wildcats. No way. How did you pull it off?
We, the night of the championship game, when the papers came out that afternoon, there were 2 teams left and we were ranked 3rd. And that's a fact. And we all got to know Pat Riley really well. He was great. He would come to El Paso and speak year after year. I ran into Pat Riley in Vancouver, British Columbia one day. My wife and I were vacationing, and I ran into Pat Riley on the sidewalk, and I turned to my wife and said, "That's Pat Riley." She says, "No." I said, "To turn around and it was." And we went into a men's store and sat down on a counter stacked up with men's pants and talked for 45 minutes.
Wow.
And he says, "I've met every one of you sons of bitches over the years." He says, "If we'd have played 10 times, you'd have beaten us 10 times. And the teams that I thought Utah was better than Kentucky. I thought Utah was better than Duke. They were something, and they were from our neck of the woods.
Yeah.
So most of the publicity and the stories were around those 2 teams. Kentucky lost its last game too of the season, from what I remember. So we weren't perfectly undefeated, but by the time we got to that game, I think that Coach had all of our attention. What was left? The season would be over when that was done. and we were not going to lose that game. We had simply down the line better players, and we were deeper, far deeper than Kentucky was. And they didn't know that. And as you say, they had written us off as a bunch of street players, not understanding that we were, I don't know, number 2 in the nation in defense. They always accuse us of stalling and holding the ball. We average 70 points a game. You don't do that stalling. What you don't want to be against a Haskins team is be close with a minute or two to go, because he's going to stick you in a delay game and you're not going to win. And that was a game, a delay game that I think he learned from Lou Henson, who learned it from Coach McGuire. And teams didn't want to see that. Coach would look up and say, "Hold the ball." It was over. And we didn't have to do that with Kentucky. We smacked them from the beginning. And they were a good team, but we had played better teams.
Wow. The movie portrayed the Miners as a bunch of fun-loving guys, characters who really respected their coach. Don Haskins had the X's and O's, but he had a way to discipline his team and keep them together and motivate and inspire. What was it about Coach Haskins that you'll never forget? His coaching ability.
There was one way we played. We had a junior high school offensive pattern. We played man-to-man defense. The only difference in our defense was where we picked up our man-to-man defense on the court. Half court, three-quarter court, or in your face. And we never changed. We never thought about running a zone. We ran the same offense against the zone we ran against the man-to-man. Simple things. And we did the same things over and over and over again until we could do them in our sleep. And with some patience in the game, nobody could get up on us by many points. And if we went into the lead, it was done. Coach was not going to relinquish the lead to anyone. But it was a simple kind of basketball, and it depended upon your being serious about it. And we learned to be serious about it. We learned that we can beat you this way, and you cannot beat us your way. And we did it game after game after game. Everybody says we were a bunch of goofballs, but we weren't. And when it came to basketball, when you got on the court, there was no screwing around. There were no fancy passes. There was none of this stuff. No. And we practiced free throws. We had one of those little bitty rebounding rims that was maybe an inch in diameter, bigger than a basketball. And they put that over the rim, and we shoot 100 free throws. And the ratio between what you made and what you missed was how long you spent running the stairs up the top of the gym. We got very good at free throws. But there were simple things. That and time on the court. We had to be on the gym, taped, and on the court at 2 o'clock. And we had a ball in our hands by ourselves, and we shot to 2:30 when coach would come out. And we would practice until he got tired. And most of the time, he was always angry. So we always had to do it again, And we'd struggle back to the dorm at 6:30. And the cafeteria would have been closed for 45 minutes. And that wasn't part of his thoughts at all. He said, "We didn't do this right. We're going to do it some more." And there are many times we would get back from a game having won the game handily and be taken to the gym. And we would practice what we didn't do well enough, even though we'd won the game. We never got to sit on anything.
How are you literally treated? There was a scene in the movie Glory Road where when you first met Adolph Rupp and his team landed at the airport, and they were dressed up to the hilt, and you and your team are over in the corner. Here come the popular Wildcats, the #1 team in the country. And the scene showed disrespect from Adolph Rupp to Coach Haskins and disrespect for your team. I think the words were, "Are those your boys? Well, good luck." And then he moved on. No conversation with Coach Haskins. How close to reality or the truth was that scene?
Well, like the movie maker told us at the viewing of the Glory Road when we watched it in the theater in El Paso, he says, "This is not a documentary." And that was enough, because we sat there and watched that movie and said, what the hell is this? But did a masterful job of accumulating what we put up with. And we, to a player, would say everything that happened in that movie actually happened. It didn't happen in the order that it happened in the movie, and it may not have happened to the individual it happened to in the movie at that time. It took us a long time and a lot of conversation to accept that film as a truth, a general truth. And yeah, we would never have met Coach Rupp at the airport. We never would have seen Kentucky's team at the airport. I mean, they probably had their own airplane. We flew to a tournament at Christmas time in Rock Island, Illinois. And the only reason we were there was because they had a team drop out, and Creighton was ranked in the top 10 then. They were in that tournament. And Haskins made a bunch of phone calls and got us signed up for that tournament. So we go down to the airport in El Paso. It's 23rd of December or whatever, and it's 70 degrees. And we sit there, and they start bringing out airplanes, and we start picking up our gear to get on the plane. Well, the planes kept getting progressively smaller and older. And we were there a good hour and a half, and finally there was this tractor came pulling a DC-3 out backwards from the garage, and one of the engine nacelles was off, and there were two mechanics working on it. That was our plane. And we didn't fly anywhere in those days. We took station wagons. You know, I spent a lot of time in the last seat looking backwards in a station wagon going to places like Tucson or Phoenix. But we flew to Rock Island. Took us 18 hours because they had engine trouble in Clovis. They had engine trouble at Amarillo. And then we get to Rock Island, and it's pitch black, and it's a blowing blizzard, and it had to be 25 degrees below zero. And we're supposed to play in this game. Well, we get in there, and in the first game, Creighton plays the University of Nevada. I think it was in their first year as having basketball. And we sat back there. We were supposed to play Gustavus Adolphus or somebody. We sit there and we wait and we wait and we wait. Haskins doesn't show up. The crowd stops and all this stuff. He comes in in absolute fury. Nevada had beaten Creighton. And we went through all of this stuff to get to this tournament, and we didn't get to play the team we wanted to play.
Wow.
We beat Gustavus Adolphus by 100 points or something crazy.
Championship night. I'm going to steal 5 minutes from my next guest.
Oh.
So we need you to tell the story. Championship night. The scene, jam-packed arena, the game. Take us through the game quickly and through the final dramatic moments of the game.
From the very beginning, the part of the film that Haskins released David Lattin on them and said, "David, drive it down their throat," was true. And Coach started a second guard. He started Willie Worsley, who was 5'6", who could dunk it freely. And he told those two guys, he said, "This team has the best two guards in the country." And I can remember Willie looking at Bobby Joe and just smiling. And they had license that night. And then the craziest thing is our leading rebounder and best defensive player, Harry Flournoy, went down early in the first half and could not come back. He tore his knee up. So we played without Harry. And Willie was phenomenal on defense, Willie Worsley. Of course, Neville Shedd and and Willie Kaiser. They came in and they just played like professionals. So it was a situation where these guys finally had a place to show people what good basketball was all about. And
Wow.
it wasn't about running in a straight line, you know. So, yeah, when it got near the end, 4 or 5 minutes to go in the game, it really hit us. So, you know what? We're going to win this. We're going to win the national championship. And all the time and the effort and the no social life and all the stuff that we did was right there in our face saying, you know, we're going to take this. And when we did, it was mayhem. And it was really mayhem in El Paso when we got home. The airport in El Paso's got to be 20 miles from the campus. And it was lined with people 8 deep all the way across. And it stayed that way. It was quite an event.
My goodness.
Yeah.
To make a movie about the event, the team, how flattering, but how necessary. The people.
You know who was responsible for that happening?
Tell me.
Our friend from Kentucky. He's the one who called up the movie people and said, hey, I've got a story for you. And Pat Riley's the guy that did it.
Wow.
He knew the producers. He knew all of the people. And they listened to him. And he wasn't involved with the production of the movie, but he sure had the idea of it being made and how important it was. So we all give him credit for that.
Individually in every player, what did it feel like to recognize the reality? We're national champions. This is real. How did it feel to you, Lou Baudoin?
Well, it was a team feeling. I mean, we were not if you look at how many people went in and played professional basketball, must have been a team, because we didn't have any massive heroes averaging 40 points a game. We played well and we played together, and that's how we felt after. And that's how we felt ever since. We knew that we depended upon each other for that to be successful. And we weren't people who had incredible heroes, you know. It was part of 12 guys, and it was always that way. I got to see a lot of games from the bench, and it didn't bother me in the least. I made that team.
Amen.
And I played, yeah. And you can't take that away, you know. It was something.
As we end today, I'm so elated to be able to talk with you so you can share that incredibly dramatic story with all your fans around our state, first of all, and throughout the country. It means so much. But you were a member of the Texas Western team, but you were Albuquerque, New Mexico's representative that special night at the NCAA championship. You're always a hero to all of us sports fans here, Lou, and couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. I'm so elated that we got you on the show today. There's more to talk about this, and if you don't mind, we'll have a second show with you. So
Sure.
do more with it if you don't mind.
Well, I would love it. That's great. Yeah.
Amen. And the movie again, I really encourage people out there around New Mexico to purchase the movie. And of course, the leading star, Josh Lucas, who portrayed Don Haskins. As we end today, Don Haskins, the man, Don Haskins, your friend, the guy that made you run bleachers, the guy that prevented you from going to the lunchroom. Who was this man to you? There he goes, and his wife Mary down the hallway. Wow, great scene right there. Who is this man to you? He's in heaven right now, but who was he to you, Lou?
You mean while we were there as players?
Over your life.
We hated his guts. He took everything from us, you know. We hated him. It didn't matter if we won or lost. We were going to have miserable practices. The worst practice of the week was Sunday. I mean, and it was the longest one of the day, but over time, and it didn't take much time, we were in awe of how he could stand up there like that and just be a monument on the court. I mean, there was no getting past him. He believed in us. He believed in what he had done. But he was self-effacing. I mean, he wouldn't take credit for anything. And anytime you mentioned a team, it was the team. And we would not, we were admitted to the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. And Coach insisted that it was the team, not a player, that represented, and we all went. And every time that we've been recognized, it's been recognized as a team. The Collegiate Hall of Fame in Kansas City has a circular display area where there's a painted portrait of the #1 player or the coach on every championship team in the history of the country. Ours is the only one that has the whole team. And that's a great feeling. And that doesn't go away.
Lou Baudoin, what a thrill to have you on the Henry T. Show today. And thank you for saying yes to a #2 show coming your way soon, ladies and gentlemen. Lou Baudoin, man, I feel like the state is giving you a standing ovation right now, Lou. Thank you from the bottom of our heart for being our special guest today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I have really been honored over the years to grow up in New Mexico and to play ball here. I have made so many friends over the years from places that you just wouldn't believe. And I'm so happy about that.
Wow.
I'm glad I went to Bel Air School, and I'm glad I went to McKinley.
You
Thank
take
you.
care of yourself.
Oh, you too.
And we'll talk again very soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Louis Baudoin, former Sandia great, former McKinley Comet great, Sandia great, UTEP Miner great, and great professor at the Albuquerque Academy. And he's on here looking great today on the Henry T. Show. We say bye to him for now, but we'll get him on again. I have 1,000 more questions for Louis Baudoin. But right now, we're going to go meet a statewide overnight hero. And, there are, 6 people you can call by the first name? Oprah, Elvis, Mariah, and maybe a few more. And now you add one more that doesn't need his second name, and that is Isaiah Chavez, quarterback for the Lobo football team. There he is, right there, leading the Lobos to consecutive victories to end the season for the Lobos here recently. First game against Wyoming, breaking a long losing streak. And then the end of the season where they beat Fresno State and going away. Let's bring up his photo right now. Let's bring up his real picture right now and meet the new overnight hero for the University of New Mexico football team, freshman from Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Ladies and gentlemen, my pleasure to introduce Isaiah Chavez. And I think he's with us. I'm not real sure, but if Isaiah, you're there, come on into the Henry T. Show, buddy.
Yes, sir. I'm right.
How are you, Isaiah? Good to see you. Yeah, hit that box, man. Whatever it takes. I'm Henry T. What a pleasure to meet you, young man.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you, sir.
Yeah, overnight, we didn't even know your last name. It was Isaiah. Man, did you see Isaiah play? Isaiah. Am I correct on that? They don't even need to know your last name right now. All they need to know is you're Isaiah, the new Lobo football star. What's been the reaction? And you're only a freshman with 2 games under your belt. No, a quarter of one game and then the entire final game of the year. What's it been like for you though during those two victories?
I mean, it's been crazy, you know. It was kind of just more preparation than anything, you know. I was more business-like during those two games, especially because the Wyoming game, I had a couple packages that I had going on, but it was more business than everything, and you know, it was kind of just crazy. It's a crazy feeling.
But there's a word in athletics. It's called poise. It's called composure. You are gifted with way over the amount you're allowed to have. How do you stay so cool and calm in the heat of the action?
I mean, as a quarterback, you got to know that everyone on the team is going to look at you. You know, the defense, even though they're on the different side of the ball doing different things, they're still going to look to their quarterback to see if they're poised and composed. I mean, and it just flows throughout the team. And if you have a quarterback that does that, I mean, you're going to stay calm and collected. And I mean, that's what I had to do. So I felt like I made it my personal job just to do that for the team.
You know, being the number 5 quarterback on the depth chart, but you work every day, coach says, like you thought you were going to play every minute of the next game. You prepared yourself. Is it more than cliche, or were you literally ready to play?
No, sir. I was literally ready to play. I mean, I like Coach said, I prepared myself every game, day in, day out, just like I was the starter. I mean, my preparation didn't change. It was the same thing throughout the year.
Wow. You threw the ball so well. You ran the ball when necessary. You ran the ball well. I mean, there was no scene out there that no moment was ever too big for you. When you went into the huddle and those seniors and juniors looked at you and say, here comes Isaiah, the freshman, but you got the respect right away. Is that true or false, or did you have to earn your way into their respect column?
I mean, I felt like I had to earn their respect right away. You know, a couple of guys were saying that they have my back and all that, but they could really say that until they actually have to prove it. And I felt like I had to prove myself and get their respect myself instead of them just saying that they have my back. You know, it was kind of just a personal thing to take respect from people.
How did you feel literally when coach called your name and said, Isaiah, get in the game? He may have given you some instructions before you ran on the field. Do you recall your thoughts, your feelings, your heartbeat, whatever, as you ran onto the field?
I mean, my heart was racing. You know, I was just, you know, telling myself to breathe inside. Obviously, I wasn't doing it out loud, but I mean, my heart was going crazy. I mean, that's the fastest it's probably beat ever. And, you know, I was just running out there. My eyes were all big, looking like a fish. You know, they were just popping out of my head, like all excited and antsy. But, I mean, that feeling was something I'll never forget. It was amazing.
As you looked into the eyes of your players on that field, what was that scene like when you looked around the huddle and saw these guys, they're giving you their undivided attention, and there you are? What was that like the first moment you had the scene in front of your eyes?
I mean, that first moment, I felt like everyone was just like, don't mess this up. You know, just relax and don't mess this up. And I looked everyone in the eye, and I told them, like, mentally, like telepathically, if that makes sense, just giving that message, like, we got this. Like, don't worry, we got this. I'll do everything I can. I'll just do my job, and hopefully everything takes care of itself.
That first touchdown pass in the Wyoming game, take us through that play. What did it feel like? And wow, all of a sudden the reality, touchdown Lobos.
I mean, that feeling is still something I can't describe. I mean, I was like a kid in the playground or a kid in the candy shop. I mean, when your parents let you get whatever candy you want, I mean, you kind of just don't know how to feel because usually that's how you know. And once I threw that touchdown to Bobby, I mean, I was going crazy. You know, I was celebrating. You could hear me screaming on the national television. But, I mean, after I was done celebrating, I just went over to Bobby and told him thank you. I mean, because without him catching the ball, without him scoring, I wouldn't have had that. So I felt like it was my job to go tell them thank you. And I just told the team that we have to keep going after that.
How much did you grow up as an athlete and just a human being? How much did you mature all in that 10 minutes?
Oh, I mean, I matured a lot. I felt like coming from high school and coming from college, it's a whole different story. It's a whole different level. And, you know, none of the high school stuff is going to fly. So I had to mature. I think, thankfully, Coach Gonzalez, you know, obviously I was on scout team and all that stuff for helping the defense out. And I think that really helped me mature and actually got me prepared for the game because, I mean, the defense was in my face, you know. I had to get off the ball a certain way, certain angles. I mean, I felt like that matured me for whatever was going to come my way.
What were your conversations with Coach Gonzalez in the closing minutes of that Wyoming game? Heart-to-heart talks on the sideline.
Heart-to-heart talk. He told me that, I mean, I'm just going to have to stay ready. And the last closing minutes, I mean, he said, take care, do your job. I mean, take care of the offense. You know, don't turn the ball over. Do your job, and everything will take care of itself. We have you on defense. So just relax and go in there and score.
And the game's over. You're looking at the scoreboard. You led the Lobos to victory. I mean, I know you're a humble man and took every teammate out there, but quarterbacks get that extra credit because you're the leader on the field. You know that.
Right.
The feeling inside of you when you realized we won and I was the quarterback, what's the feeling inside you at that split second?
I mean, I was so happy. I was so happy just to see, you know, the seniors and all those guys have been through a lot. I mean, those guys that have been here the past couple of years were just, you know, kind of getting used to having a losing culture. And I mean, seeing all those guys happy and jump around, I mean, it was a special feeling. It just made me so happy to know that I actually made someone else, you know, enjoy football again or give them that feeling of winning again. And for me, I mean, I was so excited. I was so happy. I mean, I was nonstop jumping around for maybe an hour.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Now, and there's live action of the Wyoming game. What kind of memories does that scene bring right there? Celebration on the sideline and closing minutes. And then you go to the next weekend and you've got Fresno State. It's been difficult for the Lobos to beat Fresno State for several years, as you well know. But
Yes,
there
sir.
you are starting that game and leading the Lobos to another victory. Only this victory, you run away from them at the end. The 49th point was convincing. Take us there.
I mean, that whole game, Fresno State had a solid defense, and I felt like our coaches put an amazing game plan for us because everything we had worked. I mean, there was not one thing that we had to take out. Obviously, we're going to make in-game adjustments, but even during that, I mean, there was not one play that we just scratched off and said we're not going to run this. I mean, the game plan was amazing. We didn't have nothing that we didn't know. We didn't know what to do in game. We knew exactly what to do, and I give credit to the coaches on that one.
Wow. And now, as you walk around campus, you walk around town, you go up to Rio Rancho, what's the reaction of your amazing success?
I mean, every day, usually, there's probably about 5 or 6 people that come up to me and just say, good job, you know, keep working hard. Sometimes there's little kids that just come up to me and say, you know, good job. I know a couple little kids that I train with. I have a trainer. His name is Brandon Smith. I mean, we train together. We've been training together since freshman year. And all his little kids that he has, I mean, they come up to me and just, you know, they say good job. And I feel like it's my job to let these little kids know that there is something, you know, about New Mexico kids. And you just got to keep working hard. But, I mean, 5 or 6 people, that's about it. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah. And how about inside now, the confidence that you've now built up in the last month? You know, coach is going to recruit some other players. Some of them might be quarterbacks. Do you feel that you should be in line and given an equal chance to be the starting quarterback next season? Do you carry that kind of confidence today?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, we actually just brought in two recruits. I mean, Bear Belichick. Forgive me if I say his name wrong, but he's a great quarterback. And then we brought CJ Montez. I mean, those guys are great dudes. They're studs. But as far as the quarterback room, I mean, everyone has an equal shot until one just shines out. And as far as right now, I mean, all of the chances right now are zero. Everyone is zero until they get to prove themselves.
Yeah, amen. And with your new confidence level, right now you feel like you can be the Lobo quarterback next year.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. I feel like I can.
Wow. And, maybe I exaggerated, but that's how I feel. I haven't had to use your last name here in recent weeks. I say Isaiah like we say Elvis, and everybody knows who you are. That's a great feeling.
Sir.
Yeah. That your defense against Wyoming, when they shook the ball loose inside your 5-yard line, not only a defensive stand, but a fumble recovery. What
Yeah.
a dramatic way to win a game.
I mean, that was crazy. Me and Shook had the game interview after, and I was just telling Shook, I mean, like, wow, like you saved the game. You made that play. And then I went up to the defensive guys the next day and just told them, great job. I mean, those guys, they played their hearts out. They did exactly what they're supposed to do and kept them out of the end zone.
That's interesting. You gave them a compliment. What did they say to you, freshman Isaiah, at the end of the Wyoming game, at the end of the Fresno State game? How did your teammates applaud your efforts?
I mean, they just told me good job. All the guys told me that I'm the real deal, which is kind of funny. I mean, everyone was just, good job. And, it's cool to have, especially older guys, tell you good job. And I mean, it was just everyone just had my back, and it was cool to know that if I went out there for another game, I mean, everyone's rolling behind me and we got this. So,
under Coach Gonzalez, it seems like a different feeling. It seems like a different reality. There's 100% of let's win this game feeling from my vantage point. Is that accurate? Everybody's on the same page. Everybody's sold on Coach Gonzalez. Everybody wants to turn this program into a winner. Is that accurate?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, every day, Coach Gonzalez doesn't even let us have a lazy practice. I mean, practices are, tough, grueling, hard hitting. We want to make a new identity for ourselves, being that we're the toughest team in the Mountain West. I mean, if we go hard in practice, I mean, it's easy for us in games. You don't win games on Saturdays, you win games throughout the week. And that's what Coach has been preaching to us. I mean, he does an outstanding job in telling us, we got this and we're going to win this game. All you got to do is believe, and you got to train for it. You got to practice for it. I mean, he puts an amazing feeling throughout the practice and throughout games.
Wow. Who are the first inspirational people in your life that told you, hey, you can be somebody and follow our leadership? We're going to keep you on the right road. Who were the first leaders in your life?
Oh, man. First
Mom and
leader.
Dad, are they in there?
Yeah, kind of. I wouldn't say they're the first ones, but I mean, they're in there. I don't know. I mean, I kind of always just, tried to be my own little player. Obviously I had some sports people that I always look up to, like obviously Michael Jordan, Kobe's mentality. I mean, stuff like that. But I mean, I kind of just be the best version of myself when I go on the field.
How did your family react to those incredible nights?
I mean, it was crazy. My auntie and uncle, you know, they blew up my phone after the game. It was wild. I have an auntie in Virginia. She was calling me, texting me, so happy. I mean, I have a girlfriend. She let everyone know, her family. I mean, everyone was just congratulating me, and it was amazing. My family just blew up.
Well, we want to congratulate you, and we look forward, with your permission, to talk to you again next week, if you'll do that for us.
Yes, sir. Of course.
Way to go. I say thank you, congratulations, and we look forward to your return to the Henry T. Show next week. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for having me on the show.
What a pleasure. Take care of yourself, Isaiah.
You as well. I'll see you next week.
All right, buddy. Lou Baudoin. Two remarkable stories. My goodness. And as a sportscaster, you know, where do I stack them up in all the history and all the stories I've been a part of over these many, many years? Well, they rank near the top. The Isaiah story, dramatic, so real. You know, we applaud the efforts of that football team led by Danny Gonzalez, who grew up here. He's got a similar story to Isaiah's story, born and raised here. Isaiah, of course, played at Rio Rancho High School for David Howes, and I watched him play as a high school player. Phenomenal. And I always recognized that composure in young Isaiah. Now, fifth quarterback on the depth chart. The other guys get hurt. Isaiah, you're in the game. Whoa, but he was ready. And he played and acts like he's ready. And the dramatic win over Wyoming at the end, where they have the goal line stand and a fumble recovery. Ooh, you Lobo fans remember that. And I tell you what, that was one pumped up moment for me. I had tears in my eyes. I've been a Lobo fan all my life. And to watch that drama and to know it's real. Lobo football is back. And all the work and dedication of all those players buying into Danny Gonzalez and his philosophy about football. And of course, Danny learned so much from the great Rocky Long while he was here as an assistant grad, and then Coach Long takes him out to San Diego and builds him up as a coach. There is so much there, and I love that story. And I encourage you right now to look into buying tickets for Lobo football for this coming season. And it's going to be exciting for us to be out there at University Stadium, Branch Field, and filling up every seat. Well, there's reason for you to go out there now and really being a dedicated Lobo fan. Wow, I love it. Thank you to our sponsors today, by the way, for putting this big show on the air today that means so much to you. Amestory Drywall, look at them. Evergard Roofing, and Kevin out there at the canteen. Indigo Mortgage, thank you to Action Jackson Compaction. Oh man, Chuck Jackson, you're a big hero to us. And thank you to the people who are going to join us here in the near future as well, because I'm coming out to see you. Thank you again to ProView Network, Comcast 26, and GovTV, and to Josh, our producer at ProView today, and to Jimmy Tran, our producer regularly for this show. Thank you again. Oh, don't forget Hydro Bar. Tim Bach would be real mad at me if I don't mention his tasty, healthy water. Have a great day. We'll see you next Monday. Lobo Star of the Past, Pat King, will be here. Have a great day. See you then. Bye.